All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and get started up and going again. And I don't know why I just turned off my screen, my share, sorry. I'm bringing Basir on right now. So I would like to go ahead and introduce Basir Balazadeh. I hope I pronounced that correctly, sir.
Hey, Charles, yes, you did. It's Basir Balazadeh, that's correct.
Fantastic. Basir is here to talk to us today about the ADEM product. And with that, Basir, the show is yours, sir.
Awesome, very cool. I don't have this. Oh, there it is. Okay.
I had to stop for you to get it, so yeah.
Understood. Oh, give me 1 second. I just did an upgrade on my machine and it looks like I've lost permission. So give me 1 second and let me correct that.
All right.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, my screen sharing permissions have disappeared.
Live events are always fun like this. No worries in the slightest.
I was not expecting this. Is yeah. Go ahead.
So, yeah. While Basir goes ahead and gets things done, I do want to thank everybody again for everyone who has come out today for the event. The live community obviously has a lot of free functionality to it. So again, just to kind of reiterate what we were talking about earlier, we've got live community, all sorts of free resources, fuel, you got the chapter events, everything is free. As Kim was talking about in the event today, we've got Beacon, so all kinds of free training through that as well. Lots of things available out there where you don't need to worry about your company having to outlay any money. So lots of things out there for everyone.
All right, I am almost there. Let's go ahead and do this later. Okay. Go ahead and click on share. It looks like I need to exit and come back. So I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys.
That might be the case. Okay. Yeah. That's why we always try and do our upgrades before we start live events, ladies and gentlemen. So, but everyone knows, everyone's had this problem before. It happens sometimes, so not a problem. If there are any other ideas anyone has for upcoming events, any future topics and whatnot, let us know. We do have several events already planned. March and April are both scheduled at the moment for topics. I'll be talking about the March event in a few minutes here. So once Basir is done, I'll talk about March. I'll talk about some of the other events that we have coming up. And I will go ahead and hand it off to Basir again.
Awesome. Thank you. And sorry about that.
No worries.
All right, guys. So a little bit about me. I recently joined Palo Alto about 3 or 4 months ago. But prior to that, I've been in the tech space for about almost 25 years now. The first 15 years of my career, I was in the IT management space. I worked for a company called Lennar Homes. We had up to about 15,000 employees. I was in the 2000s. And then in 2010s, I moved into the Bay Area and I worked for a bunch of startups. And then in 2016, a company called Gigamon approached me and they said, hey, we're looking for somebody to be a technical marketing engineer for our cloud visibility solution. I said, well, I've done technical, I've done engineering, I've never done marketing before. They said, it's okay, we could teach you how to market. And it turns out I've always wanted to be a TME because I love to share my gained knowledge with those around me because I feel technology is designed to make life easier and not harder. And so the more we enable, the better it is for everybody. And so, yeah, I did that Gigamon for about 5 or 6 years. And then I went to Zscaler for 2 years. I was working on a product called browser isolation, remote browser isolation. And then recently I joined Palo Alto. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I've seen the transition, and you guys are all most of you have already gone through this process where in the 2000s, we built infrastructures ourselves. We deployed infrastructure. We built data centers. We deployed the routers and switches. In the 2010s, we saw the advent of the public cloud, which again, it's just like a mainframe and a new revision of that technology from back in the 80s, right? And then with virtual machines, and then with the cloud, and then with SaaS applications, and then with COVID happening. So we've seen this transition from our IT admins having access and visibility into the infrastructure that they deployed versus now a lot of that infrastructure has been abstracted from them. And with the advent of COVID, people are working from anywhere in the world. As long as you have an internet connection, you're able to do your work, which is awesome. I fully support that. But As an ex-IT person, when somebody picks up the phone and says, hey, I can't access an application, or this thing is being slow, as an IT person, where exactly are you supposed to troubleshoot a user's issue? When the user's in a corporate office, we have a better sense of the infrastructure because we designed it and we deployed it. But when a user is asking this question from a home network or from a coffee shop, how do you exactly troubleshoot where exactly the pinpoint, the issue is? And on top of that, a lot of us are starting to use our browser to do our work. We spend a lot of time in our enterprise web applications, and these enterprise applications are not just a monolithic web application, right? It's a bunch of different microservices that come together to make a website. And so sometimes the landing page of Salesforce.com or ServiceNow is good. It works good. But what happens if you're on click 3 or click 4 or click 5? What happens? How do you troubleshoot those issues? Which is something that I'm kind of foreshadowing. I'll tell you guys in a bit. And this is ADEM does a really good job of providing that visibility. And one of the things that we like to call this is kind of like a delivery chain, where when a user picks up the phone and says, I have a problem, is it their device? Is it the Wi-Fi? Is it their router? Is it the ISP that they're connecting to? Is it the backend infrastructure that's hosting the SaaS application? Where exactly is this problem? And this is where ADEM is able to provide the visibility, give us the smart insights. We have the ability of also creating automatic tickets with ServiceNow. There's integration with that, and the cool thing of this whole thing is natively integrated with our Prisma Access solution. And this is so the ADEM solution has a couple of components. One of them is it's bundled with our Global Protect agent. So when you deploy that, the agent's running on the machine, and that's where we're able to find out if it's your CPU or your disk space, lack of that, or memory, maybe your Wi-Fi. Maybe I've heard situations where some people have connected to their neighbor's Wi-Fi for some reason, and then now they're trying to work, and then their connection is not super great, and then it turns out that they're still connected to their neighbor's Wi-Fi, and the connection is not great. And this is where ADEM is able to do a really good job of giving us that visibility into, is it the device, is it maybe the user's network, is it the ISP? And some of the tools that the ADEM uses are curl, ping, traceroute, these things that network admins use to determine, but we're able to do this on scale for all the users that have the ADEM agent deployed on them. And so with this solution, it's very easy to, like I like to use the term finding a needle in the haystack, because now we know exactly if it's where on this delivery chain is the issue for the user that's going through the challenge, that's having a problem. So combining that insights, we're able to now get a good sense of how the performance is from a user's perspective to the destination. Everything that I covered so far is referred to as synthetics. This means that it's our machine-to-machine communication. So like I said, curl, web, traceroute, and ping. So these are machines talking to machines every 10 to 30 seconds, and then that information comes back to us, and then we're able to visualize that to get a sense. But as I said earlier, a lot of us are now starting to do our work in a web browser. And one of the reasons I actually joined Zscaler is because I saw my wife, when she was doing her work, she had 2 applications open. It was a web browser and the Outlook client. So those are the 2 things. And so that's when I'm like, wow, the next evolution that's happening with the enterprise space is using a browser to do our work. And this is where now we have the ability of being able to, when a user logs into a ServiceNow.com or a Salesforce.com or a ServiceNow.com, now we are able to get insights into how's their click 4 or click 5, and I will get into details of how we're able to do that. And so now combining the synthetics, so that machine-to-machine communication, with the interaction of the real user monitoring, we're able to provide a full view of how is the user's experience not just from the machine-to-machine communication, but also actual real user communication and how those two interact. Before I get into the details of how what RUM is and how we do this, I do want to point out a new metrics that's being used to give us a sense of how the performance of an enterprise application is. There's been studies, humans have been studied for several years to get a perception of how we perceive what is a good performing website and what is a bad performing websites. And so some of the parameters that we utilize to get this information is something called largest contentful paint, interaction to next paint, and cumulative layout shifts. So combining these three scores, we're able to get a sense of how does a human perceive a good website. And the way this works is if a website loads below 2.5 seconds, us as humans, we're like, yeah, that's a good website. And you guys probably have experiences yourself, right? When you go to a site, if it takes a couple of seconds, over here, if it takes more than 4 seconds, you kind of give up on it and you either hit the refresh button or you move on to the next component, right? And this next slide kind of gives us a little bit more visual representation of exactly what's happening. So you go to a web page, within 0.2 seconds, the first paint loads, the first contentful paint, and then the largest paintful happens within 0.7. So this is a really good performing website. The next component is, okay, the web page is loaded, that's awesome, but what happened now that the page is loaded, we want to interact with the page, right? So meaning we want to click on it. We want to type something in there or watch a video or open up a new link or look at a picture. So the next component is, it's not just the page loading, but the next thing that we're also measuring is how long does a web page take to acknowledge you trying to interact with it. And the last component is the visual stability. This is something that was probably a lot more back in the day and maybe a little bit more on our remote devices. But I don't know, do you remember when the page would load and all of a sudden the CSS would kick in and all of a sudden it would look pretty, the text would change, the font would change, and so the component would change. So that's where we have the introduced now. So now I'm going to switch now. Oh, one other thing I do want to mention is with the ADEM product, so we talked about synthetics and RUM, but we also do have cloud-to-cloud integrations with Zoom and with MS Teams. All right, I'm going to switch this now and kind of show you guys what it is that I was talking about. All right, let's go into this other.
While you're bringing that up, we had a question come in. Will ADEM have a version that works for the firewall-based GP solution as well as Prisma Access? It sounds like it would be massively helpful when getting tickets from users.
So somebody's stealing my thunder. Yes, it will. And I will give you guys a sneak peek about that topic. Yes.
Well, there's your answer for you, Simon. Great. Okay.
All right, let me go full screen with this. But before I do that, I wanted to go to here, The Verge. Okay. Now, I want to give you guys a thing. So if you guys are a Chrome or any kind of Chromium-based user, you will already have insights into the core web vitals that I was talking to you about earlier. So if you go to a page, right-click and go to Inspect, and then from there, go into Performance. Over here, we will see those core web vitals that I was mentioning about earlier. So this page, The Verge, loaded in 0.47 seconds, meaning that it's a very good performing website. Okay, now that it's loaded, so let me go ahead and click on a link. Here's the next one. So this page loaded in 0.5 seconds, awesome. Now if I click on it, the page took 16 milliseconds for it to acknowledge the fact that I clicked on it and I want to be able to use it and interact with it, right? So this is a very good performing web page, it's everything. So now let me go ahead and pause this and go back to this other slide to kind of get into the components of how this solution works. So I'm kind of, I want to make this interactive and not just use the slideware. I want to also make it so that you're also getting a sense of how the solution works.
And also, as more questions come in like Simon's, please ask them, everyone. We're definitely encouraging the interaction.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Thanks for that. Okay. So as I talked about with ADEM, when ADEM was released, the ADEM solution was bundled with our Global Protect agent. So when you deploy that, the agent is there, that's running on your local machine, and it's doing this performance, those machine-to-machine communication, those synthetics on the machine, which also gives us a sense. Now with the RUM solution, this is where it's the real user monitoring. This solution is an extension that gets deployed into the browser, which then keeps track of where you're clicking, what you're doing. And then from there, we're able to then give that visibility into insights into how the performance of the solution is as users clicking around. So for the first release of this solution, we are supporting our Prisma Access browser solution. So that's available now, where if you're Prisma's Access user and you have the ADEM solution, then you could go ahead and within the Prisma Access browser solution, you could go into rules, from rules go to browser customization, and then from there you will see this real user monitoring. And then once that gets deployed, it's basically like an extension. So if you guys use any extensions on your browsers, that's what it is. It's an extension that gets deployed into a browser that gives us that tracking of the core web vitals. And from there, what this extension does, it keeps track of managing our sessions, keeps track of our interactions. It collects system information such as, and I'll get a bit, and then this information gets sent back to the ADEM portal every 60 seconds for us to get a sense of how the performance is. The extension itself has the ability of looking at the CPU and the memory usage of the device. And then the next part is the session part of it. And this is where we will, whatever domain you're going on to, how long you've been there, how long, what was the end time, how long was the duration. And for this, I do want to point out is the way we're measuring this is when you load a couple of tabs, and if you stop interacting with a tab for more than 15 minutes, we consider that as inactive. And so it means that session has come to termination. If you go back and refresh the page, then we'll open up a new session and then if you stop 15 minutes, and then it'll be another session. So this is what a session is. Session consists of these parameters, and you can have multiple of them for this information to come back to us. The other part is, the whole point of this tool is to get a sense of how is individual performance of the different pages you're going to, right? Not just the landing page, right? So some of the digital experience monitoring solutions are really good at pinging the page or the front page of a solution. But then what happens, like I said, if you're on click 3 or click 4 or click 5, and this is where our real user monitoring solution is able to provide us insights into how the performance of the individual pages are, which is the thing we want to understand when to get a sense of how that performance is for the user perspective. Now, one thing that is changing with our ADEM solution is with the introduction of RUM, our telemetry is changing to now utilize something called time to first byte. This has been there before in the ADEM solution, but now it's getting a front center. And with the time to first byte, a lot of different components are being tracked in milliseconds to, again, give a sense of how is the interaction of this user, this human, to the destination. So that the time to first byte, which comprises of these components, plus that thing that I showed you guys earlier, the core web vitals, now gives us a very good sense of how is a user's experience while they're browsing those enterprise applications. Another component is our interactions. So meaning we keep track of if you're like using the mouse, if you're clicking on the keyboard, some of those things. So some of those things are also being tracked to give us a really good sense of how is the experience, how is me as a human's experience browsing these different websites. Now with that, as I mentioned, the scoring has changed, and so now the way we score the website or the performance of a website is, if a website gives us any kind of HTTP error messages that are 400 and above, we automatically give it a score of a 0, because then that's an error message. So anything that in the 200s, it's awesome. Like, the page is performing, it's available, and for us to interact with it. So that's one component, is the availability of the page. Anything above 400 gets a 0. The next component is the time to first byte, as I showed earlier. And then based upon this, then we'll give the performance of the site with these different scores: green, good, fair, or poor. So if a page gets a score of 70 above, it's a good, it's performing well, it's good. Now, if a page gets a score below 70, then this is when we start looking at these other components. So this is where the synthetic information comes in, where we say, okay, or the device might have too much CPU usage or too much memory usage, and so that's causing it. Maybe it's they're far away from their Wi-Fi, it's not great, or maybe they're connected to their neighbor's Wi-Fi, and that's really what's happened. And so that's when we use these other components to get a sense that maybe it's not just the website itself that's having a little bit of issues. Maybe it's a little bit on the user side or the user's infrastructure that's causing the challenge for them to connect to the website. And as I said, this information is every 5 minutes. This information gets sent back to our portal so for us to be able to provide that visibility. Now, one thing I do want to point out with the introduction of RUM, if we have RUM information available to us, then we will lean more towards the RUM information because that's more human to machine interaction. If that information is not available, then we will go back to our synthetic information, just like how it has been. Now, with this, so this is a little bit into how the scoring is happening. I won't get too much into this. Is if you guys are into math, there's a lot of formula that we've utilized to come up with these scenarios. But it's on our website, so I'll share that with you guys later. Now, with this, I do want to talk about some of how are we doing the measurement now. So we have 4 different ways to do the measurement. So this is the most ideal scenario for us to provide the best visibility for our IT admins. This is where it's a managed device, meaning that Global Protect is running on it. They are a Prisma Access browser user, which also has the RUM extension deployed. And on top of that, we have something. We have a web test deployed that's doing the telling the machines, yeah, we want you to do the synthetics towards these applications, these enterprise applications that are important to us. And this is where we're able to provide that full visibility into how is that user's experience when they're going to that enterprise application. And so these parts of it are coming from that synthetic information, and the last part of it is the RUM. And this is, again, we will heavily lean more towards on the RUM side, and then supplement it if its score of a website is below 70. The next part of it is, well, not all of our users are on managed devices. And so with the advent of enterprise browsers and this whole thing that we have with Prisma Access Browser, we have some customers that are logged into unmanaged devices, and they will still want to be able to access their private applications or secure connection to their SaaS applications. And so this is now with our RUM extension running in the Prisma Access Browser, we're able to provide that insights into how's the CPU and memory utilization of that machine. And then on top of that, also then utilize that time to first information and the core web vitals, and then to give us a sense into how the user's experience is to that website. Scenario number 3 is as is. This is not including RUM. So this is a managed device with Global Protect and ADEM agent on it with the web tests. And the last one is, well, because we do have the RUM extension running on our browser, now we'll have really good visibility into what are some of the websites that the user are going to, which then might be an indication that, hey, maybe this is a good enterprise application that we should start monitoring. All right, so I'm going to pause here and go into a live demo. Charles, any questions for me to answer now, or should I continue going?
You are good to keep going.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm just going to keep an eye. I might have to have you zoom in a little on that from what I saw last time, but we'll see.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Thank you for that reminder. Let me go ahead and minimize this. Actually, let me change my screen resolution, and hopefully that happens in real time.
Actually, we did just have a quick question come in. Is it available for iOS or Android devices as well?
The extension itself?
They didn't clarify, but we'll ask that, sure.
Yeah. So the RUM extension is for a browser. It's not necessarily for a mobile device. It's for a browser. So actually, it will look like this, right? So if I come in here and go to here, so it's this right here. It's an extension that gets deployed into a browser.
Yeah, they do have Chrome for like iOS and whatnot, I know, but
but I'm not sure if the extensions are supported on the
neither do
mobile
I. Don't know
version.
either. That's why I figured I'd throw the question at you. So okay.
Yeah. I don't think extensions are. I think Firefox does it, but I don't know if Chrome does it. I have to double check and get back to you guys.
So all of this is just being done via extensions at the moment, at least.
Correct. Yes. And
Okay.
initially it's for the Prisma Access browser, but then we will have it available for Chrome and Edge in a couple of months. That will be available. So we refer to those as commercial browsers. It'll be available for those.
Okay. So we'll have to see about mobile stuff possibly for you, Dirk, later. So
yeah. Charles, how's the resolution for this? Is this easier to see?
it looks pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe some of you guys have seen this. Maybe you guys haven't seen this. So this is our Strat Manager. This is our single pane of glass solution that manages our infrastructure. And in here, the cool thing about this is, so me going back when I told you guys I used to do IT in the 2000s. I don't know if you guys remember a tool called What's Up Gold or Zabbix or Nagios. These were some of the tools that we used back in the day to give us a sense into the performance of our of our servers. And we had these monitors, these knock screens for us to get visibility. But how cool is this, right? To be able to see your entire infrastructure and where are your users connected to. Are they coming in from the next generation firewalls? Or are they coming in from the Prisma Access? So this, this is awesome. And then on top of that, you're able to see the threats in real time, how's the operation health. So a lot of data, but in a very cool way to be able to consume, right? And so from here, once you log in here, now ADEM has its own dedicated page. So we'll go into Insights, and from Insights, we'll go into Application Experience. And this is where now we're able to see the amount of devices that we have seen in the last 3 hours. So here's that. We have about almost 13,000 devices. There are 19 monitored applications in the last 3 hours that have been hit. And out of that, 13 of them are doing good. 2 of them are like, and 3 of them are not doing super great. And that's where this portion of the screen becomes very important, because now we have a lot of different systems. There's a lot of signals, there's a lot of information, a lot of noise coming in for us. And from an IT's perspective, where do you go and troubleshoot? And this is where I love this portion of the dashboard, because this automatically bubbles up the worst performing sites and it gives a score. And now our admin is able to quickly go and troubleshoot. Okay, we're the SharePoint is having a hard time. I won't click on it now. I'll show you guys in a bit. Let's go ahead and troubleshoot that and see how that's impacted. We scroll down a little bit further. Now we have this new dashboard. It's called the Sunburst dashboard. And this is where we're able to see what's the thing that's giving the biggest problem. So for this one, it's an application. The application is what's causing the problem. And if I move my mouse over it, we see that there are, hold on, there are, I don't know why my mouse stopped working. Give me 1 second. Okay, there it is. So this application is not available, and the impacted user are about 676 users. The impacted time, now this goes back to when I showed you guys the core web vitals. So like I said, if a page loads less than 2.5 seconds, then that's awesome, that's great, it's performing well. But if it takes longer than that, that's one of the things that we're doing is we're keeping track the amount of time that it takes. So that means that in the last 3 hours, out of those 12,784 devices, there has been around this much hours of impact that's caused degradation for those users. And so this Sunburst dashboard does a really good job of providing us that quick visibility into that. So the inner rings are the things that's having a problem, and the outer rings indicate how many people are impacted by it and who's impacted by it and what is. So that's so the bigger the circle or the thicker the circle, the more people are impacted. So that, yeah, that's another way for it to see that. And then one other part of it is, so this was more application centric, right? Causing degradation. This one is also, now we are able to utilize that our synthetic information and some of that RUM information to get a sense of, out of those almost 13,000 devices, 334 of them in the last 3 hours have experienced device issue, meaning too much CPU or memory or disks usage. 67 have Wi-Fi, this many memory, so it goes on. And so yeah, so this is where we're able to provide that our IT admin very quick visibility into what's happening enterprise-wide to give them that gut sense. And that's the thing we're all looking for when we're using Nagios and What's Up Gold is we all wanted to have that gut intuition of how the performance of our infrastructure is to understand what's happening on that day. And then we scroll down, we'll see a good global distribution of our users and where they are and what are some of those impacts. And so this is also does a really good job of giving us that visibility into that. Now, I am going to, so this was a demo environment. So this was for our remote users. This is where if you have Global Protect deployed, this one is if you're using our Prisma Access SD-WAN solution, which is our ION devices. That one also, we're monitoring that from branch locations to the web application. So also the same visibility. Now, one thing I do want to mention is I talked to you about the application or the fact that with the RUM application deployed, we're able to see what are some of the places that are what are some of the important applications that we need to start monitoring. And so this is important because ADEM is a solution that we specify what are some of the important enterprise applications that we want to monitor, and then go and then run these tests from a user's device or from the ION device to this location. And now, so this is a new thing that I want to tell you guys about. And if you guys were previous ADEM users, you know that you had to create an application ID and tie that to the test over here. Now with this, with the newest release of ADEM, it's as simple as you just give it a name, and then you give it a fully qualified domain name or an IP address. I'll just go ahead and do this one. And now we're able to start running the test against that. And in here, when you're doing the test, as I mentioned earlier, you can pick all your users, or you could pick selective users, or you could create, if you had a group of users you want to assign, you could do that in here. If you're using the Prisma Access SD-WAN solution, you can have it off of here. And the last one also is now we can also pick and choose. This is also new. Pick and choose which Prisma Access locations, we have 200 of them around the world, which Prisma Access locations we also want to run this test from. So this is where our admins can select where to do this test. Now I'm going to get a little bit deeper into, into the running the test. As I mentioned, we're using curl, ping, and traceroute to do this, right? And so when you're doing this test, by default, you can select the port. And then down here, when we're doing the visual representation, we could either use ICMP or TCP. And if you choose TCP here, then whatever port you put up here, that port will get used down here if you do the override the default HTTP. Or down here also it will be overwritten, right? So if you select, let's say, I'll just do port 70, this, then come down here. When I use TCP, it will use this port to run the tests on to provide a visual instinct. One of the things that I do like a lot about this is the idea of a trusted network versus untrusted network, meaning that if you assign this in here, by default, this is disabled. So when you create these tests, you have the potential of almost doing like a DDoS towards that application, right? So this is where when you come into a branch or a location, you don't want to necessarily check this because you don't want to have all those machines running those tests against the location, right? Because it could, if you have bandwidth restrictions, and this is where you want to lean. If you have the ION device and the branch, let's have that one device do the test versus a bunch of different machines. Now, for sure, if you're on an untrusted network, meaning from a home or from a cafe or from a hotel, whatever, for sure, we want to have these tests running from the user's device to the destination because we want to get a sense of what are those hop by hop analysis. Is it the Wi-Fi? Is it the mission? Is it the CPU memory? So this is one of the cool things about this solution that we can do. Okay, so with that, once you create the test over here, so these are those applications or enterprise applications that are very important to us. We want to have visibility, but with introduction of RUM, we can also now get a sense that, hey, maybe some of our users are going to some of these other enterprise applications that maybe we should start monitoring those too. Okay, now let me go back here and kind of let's go a little bit a deep dive into a user's perspective. So let's go and look at Tom Brady and see how his experience is doing. And so we scroll down, we see that Tom's machine, his the score is a 35, and it's a 35. And let's see why is it so bad. And so if we click on SharePoint, and then we scroll down here, we see that actually this person is having looks like some kind of a network issue. Yeah, right. Okay, so we see this over here. So this is again in the last 3 hours. We'll scroll a little bit further. We see, okay, so this is actually not a Wi-Fi issue. Their Wi-Fi, I'm sorry, it's not a device issue because the CPU memory usage is okay. It's not a local network issue. It's potentially, oh, here it is. They're having a lot of latency and jitter, which is causing their bad experience to the SharePoint application. And this is when we scroll down here, we could put these checks. And so this is where, when I talked about the time to first byte, some of those things, information is coming to us, available for us. And this is awesome. So I like to refer to this as almost like a time machine, because if you guys ever worked in a networking and you want to do packet capture, you've had to have proactively designed the underlying infrastructure for you to be able to do packet captures, right? Otherwise, if it's already happened, it's really hard to go back in time to determine what has happened. The reason why I love this solution, because this is creating almost a time machine where we could go back in time and it's like, oh, you were having a hard time connecting to this application because at this time you were having too much jitter, and so that's what caused this issue for you. And then on top of that, on top of showing this, now we could go into the path visualization. And then in here, we can see one of the things I love, which is that hop by hop analysis. I don't know if you guys ever used something called MTR. So that is another, it's almost like traceroute on steroids. And then we could expand this to give us that hop by hop analysis of where was the issue that was causing. So over here, we see that, it's not the local infrastructure, it's not some of the few hops, but then once they started connecting to their ISP, so some of these hops on their ISP, actually it's not ISP, this is now connecting to the MSN network. So this is now more on some of the performance issues are happening on the SaaS application itself that's causing some of these jitter and latency and issues. Yeah, so this is where we're able to provide that visibility. And then on top of that, we can also see CPU memory, what type of, I've actually had some scenarios where I've talked to customers and we've seen that the machine has only 8 gigs of memory and they're trying to use some pretty heavy enterprise applications. I'm like, well, you're having a bad experience because your machine itself, it just cannot handle the amount of compute or the amount of memory resources needed to be able to render some of these pages that you're going to. So this is a really cool tool to be able to quickly troubleshoot some of those things. All right, I'm going to minimize this and then see if I could answer some questions that have come up.
We had some input from Ryan a little bit ago. He said that the Prisma Access browser itself is available for iOS and Android. The extensions on mobiles are limited by the OS, though. So,
awesome. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, so if you got Prisma Access already, I'm sure full ADEM RUM support is coming down the road.
Yes.
But you actually went ahead and David had a question of, does the RUM show all the hops between the user CPE and the PA gateway, like ADEM for PA and GP? And you, as soon as he asked the question, you went ahead and answered it right away. So, David, nice job with the psychic question, and Basir, great job with the timing there. So, yeah.
All right. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys a quick preview of our next generation firewall. Oops, sorry. Let me go ahead and cancel that. Did not mean to do that. Okay. So we already went through this. We all understand ADEM Global Protect running on your device, connecting, and then providing that visibility. Now, when ADEM becomes available for our next generation firewall, the initial deployments supported is going to be when next generation firewall is in a mobile user or gateway mode. So meaning that you have the Global Protect solution deployed onto your device. So rather than you connecting, so this part right here, basically all, if you guys don't understand, right now, this existing solution, this is a Prisma Access Cloud right here. Whereas when we come this will, all we're doing is just, we're making next generation firewall available for us to be able to give that visibility into here. So that's all, it's conceptually, it's an easy, but the effort and some of the stuff that's happened is a good amount of effort. But yeah, that's conceptually, that's what it is. Is we're replacing Prisma Access with next generation firewall. And then the next one is, so I talked about the Ion devices, ADEM running on that. When this becomes available, if our customers have the next generation firewall in SD-WAN mode and they're licensed for it, and also have the ADEM license, then now we're also be able to provide visibility into which path did the user's traffic take to get to the application. Was it a direct internet connection? Did it go through the next generation firewall hub, or did it use the Prisma Access to get to the destination? And then from there, again, this is the whole time machine concept. That time, at that moment, which of those different paths were used to make the connection to the destination, and that's what we'll be able to provide that visibility and that sense that this user was connected to this enterprise application, and they happen to go through directly internet connection to it, and then that's how they connected. Yeah, so this is once this becomes available, then our customers will be able to, if they're next generation firewall, MU remote users or gateway, or if they're in SD-WAN mode, then we will be able to support ADEM on those two formats or modes. All right, that's all that I had to share. Oh wow, okay, so I did that in about half an hour. Hopefully I didn't go too fast and I was able to provide relevant information to you guys.
Oh, that's why we're recording the event. People can go back and rewatch it as much as they like to then, so yes. Yeah. So we'll throw it out there. Anyone have any last minute questions for Basir? Go ahead and get your questions in now. Basir, thank you very much for the actual session. Not knowing if this was even a product that was available, I find that very fascinating just to see what exactly it is. I kept hearing the term and whatnot, and yeah, I've heard the term. I have no idea what this is. Now we've actually gotten a great introduction to it. So thank you very much for that. I also did love the fact that you kept, and we were talking about this the other day, I did love the fact that you kept referring to Nagios and whatnot. It's still one of my favorite tools. I use it all the time. I love the product personally. But it's great for with the smaller organizations who don't always have the multi-million-dollar monitoring security budgets. It's a great tool for that kind of thing. Okay, so we got a couple questions coming in here. Simon is wondering, is there an ETA for the next gen firewall version?
I know the team is heavily working on it. I'm not ready to share that information yet. It's a lot of effort, and every Tuesday there's a meeting that happens and so I'm part of. But I know it's happening very, very soon.
Okay.
Yeah, very soon.
Cool. So there you go. Dirk is wondering, can it be licensed for a partial user population, or does it need to be purchased for the same amount of licenses as you have for Prisma Access GP?
Now it's going to be it's a 1-to-1 ratio. In the past, I believe there was an opportunity to do partials. Now it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay. So unfortunately, that's the answer there, Dirk. I'm guessing you're probably looking for the partial solution, but yeah. So if there's no other questions, well, please.
Yeah, go ahead and actually, Dirk, if you have an account team, also ask them. I think we have the add-on capabilities, so we may be able to just do it. But I know, like I said, guys, I recently joined, so this is the information that I'm providing is like news information. So I may not have past historical information, but your account team will probably be a better resource to be able to provide that answer.
Cool, fantastic. All right, Dirk gives a thumbs up. Cool. All right. With that then, Basir, thank you very much again. We'll go ahead and let you go, and you are free to go. And thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Thank you guys for your time. Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. Thank you.